How to turn down offers politely and turn into a horn for hire rather than a mainstay. And I think mainstay here, like a mainstay in a band. All right, so I had this question from Dan, and I answered it. I did it last night. Well, actually, I answered it twice. I got interrupted, you'll see in a moment. Then I answered it again. And then I was like, I don't know if this is that great, but I was gonna put it up, but then I ran out of time editing it. It was dinner time. I was not gonna continue editing through dinner time. And then I didn't finish it last night, and so then I woke up this morning and I thought, that sucks. That was just a worthless answer, so I'm not gonna post it. But I made it twice yesterday and I edited it, and this is what keeps happening. This is why you're not seeing any videos from me. This is the pattern that I've let myself fall victim to. So with that, I'm gonna just post it. It's long, it's rambling. I don't know what to tell you, but moving forward, I've got other videos. I wanna get the momentum going a little bit, and if I don't just kind of post it, then I won't be able to get to the good stuff. Maybe this is good, I don't know. I'm just a terrible judge. Here's the question from Dan. Hi all, I have a question about how to navigate the waters in your city, like whatever city it is you live in. What I'm seeing for the most part in my city is that horn players are not quote unquote part of any one band exclusively. The good players are kind of sought out on a gig by gig basis to fill a need for horns rather than being a mainstay in a band. So as I get out there, I've had a few offers from bands, but some seem to want someone that can come to weekly practices. I feel like this is not something I can do. As a horn player crossing genre lines into things like reggae and pop, I feel that these people are unfamiliar with the whole horn player for hire. Hi, dude. I thought you were napping.
I wake up because it was wake up time.
It was wake up time?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Hi. As a horn player crossing genre lines into things like reggae and pop, I feel that these people are unfamiliar with the whole horn player for hire kind of mentality. I'm not as much interested in the money at this point in my life, but my time is very important to me. So my TLDR, meaning too long didn't read, question is, how do you choose what bands to play with? How do you suggest to people the idea of them sending you material to work on before a gig? Maybe you show up to one practice before a given gig. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts. And then there were a couple people who chimed in. Let's see, Eric said, I'm on both sides of the fence here. I have a couple groups that I run and am, to a fault, a yes man for sure. I definitely don't mind rehearsing, but time is always very valuable. The balance of playing as much as possible without burning yourself out is always a challenge. All right, so back to this, the original question. Hi.
Hi. Hi.
Hi. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. All right, so the meat and potatoes of this question is, how do you choose what bands to play with? How do you suggest to people the idea of them sending you material to work on before a gig? I've experienced this in many different ways over the years, and just to give you an example of my personal pendulum here, my extremes, I'm thinking back to my New York days specifically when I played in like wedding function bands, most of which I hated. A couple of them I really enjoyed because of the people. It was always because of the people involved. But let's just say that on one extreme, I could play a gig on a Saturday out in Long Island, make several $100s, but I hated it. I felt like I was selling my soul to the devil. I was schlepping around on subways and Long Island railroads and cabs and spending more than 12 hours at it. And okay, so that was a situation where I did not want to be a part of that band. That was sheerly a play for money. I could take the money that I made in that one day and use it to offset the money I was not making on the other days, so that, other side of the pendulum, I could be at that Tuesday night gig that paid $0. Maybe there were some tips, but I was playing music I was excited about. It was challenging. I was playing with people I wanted to play with, etc. Okay, so there's that. So in terms of choosing bands to play with, whether to be a hired gun or you're part of a band, let me back up one more thing. There's a band I was part of for years. I was part of a band called the Jonah Smith Band with a singer-songwriter named Jonah Smith, and that was a 5-person band, and we were a band. It wasn't a jazz musician mercenary thing. We were actually, we traveled around as 5 guys. If we got paid $5, everybody got $1. If we got paid 5,000, everybody got 1,000. We never got paid 5,000. And then of course there's the jazz mentality, the mercenary thing, that you're dealing with a pool of players who are all very capable, high level, and you'll end up having to sort of choose based on who's available, etc. That's a thing. But what Dan is asking in this question is, in a local scene where there are bands with horn sections and they're probably not jazz bands but other genres of music, and they're often looking for a horn player to be part of the band. And the downside there is you're most likely going to be dealing with musicians who are not accustomed to what the sort of jazz tradition is. The jazz tradition is that you, as an individual, invest a lot of time by yourself working on your craft, your instrument, your abilities, so that when you go out to play with other people, you're prepared in many different ways for many different situations. One of the biggest things you can do to improve yourself as a player, jazz musician or otherwise, is playing with people, with other people. So that's a huge one. And I'm just trying to kind of come at this from a few different angles in terms of how do you actually make these decisions? How do I make them? That's all I can really speak to. I can't tell you how to do it. But there's different factors I'm always looking to balance. Like Dan mentioned, he said, I'm not as much interested in the money at this point in my life, but the time is very important to me. Are you looking at a gig for the money you will make? Are you looking at it for the experience you will have, the people you'll play with, what you'll learn, what will challenge you, what scares you, what excites you? There's all these different factors besides just the band, the money or lack thereof, etc. I think early on it's important to say yes to as many things as possible to get a broad range of experiences, but as time goes by, you have to limit your choices. You have to be more selective. So it's different for everybody, and it's also different from, depending on where you are, what season you're in as a player, amateur or professional. There's an article I highly recommend reading. Just Google this. It's called Hell Yeah or No by Derek Sivers. Derek Sivers founded the company CD Baby, later sold it. He writes a lot of fantastic blog posts, articles, books, etc. But search for the article Hell Yeah or No, meaning, do I want to do this thing or not? The premise is, if it's not an instant hell yeah I want to do it, like I don't care what it pays or whatever else I have to cancel or what sacrifices I have to make, I want to be there, like that's hell yeah. If it's not that, then it's a no. And the reason is this, and this is something I grapple with constantly. It's like if my calendar looks empty, I want it to be empty, but this other side of me is like, well, your calendar's empty, you're never gonna play with anybody again if you don't take this gig and blah, 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 blah. So I tend to fill it up, and then I feel better initially until the things arrive, until I get to the point in the future where I've scheduled all these various things. I've said yes to this band, yes to these people, yes to that, and then I feel robbed of my time. And I am not good at this still to this day, and I'm struggling with it all the time. What to say yes to, what to say no to. Money is just one factor, but time really is the biggest one. I've spoken about this in various episodes before. Money is a renewable resource and time is not. So that's really where I start, or I try to start. So look, when you're kind of in this situation where you're trying to convince a band that may want you to join their horn section, but they want you to be at rehearsals, just remember that, let's say a band that's a pop, a reggae, funk band, they get together to play music for fun. They're probably not professional musicians, this scenario I'm cooking up. And the band rehearsal is a large part social event. It's just what it is. So I think it's a great thing to have that experience. I think jazz musicians who've just come up through the jazz channels and schools and camps and festivals and competitions and all that, and they've never experienced what it is to be part of a band and have that hang and kind of familial thing, I think they're really missing out. I'm so grateful for the opportunities I've had for those experiences. So that's important, but it's not for me all the time, every time. It's just one component. I always knew I didn't want to be just in a band. So what experiences have you had and what experiences have you not had? Haven't you had yet? What are you chasing? What are your goals? What are the things you want to be doing with your time? What things do you want to get better at? And maybe it's a band who's asking you to play and commit to rehearsals, and their music is challenging to you or uncomfortable in a certain way, like you're not comfortable with it, and playing with them would offer you an opportunity to get comfortable. Well, that's an opportunity right there. So maybe that's one you want to say yes to. I know there have been plenty of times where I was at a band rehearsal thinking to myself, what the heck am I doing here? Like, why, these guys haven't put in anywhere near the time practicing their instruments or this material, and I'm just wasting my time. Then I've been in other situations where the rehearsals, I don't feel that way at all because I feel like I'm really contributing something, and that's, to be honest, those experiences haven't tended to be horn section related. All the work that I do that's horn section related now is all on the sort of professional level where things are written out, charted out, it's recording, it's rehearsals, it's gigs, whatever. I don't know, Dan or whomever else might be experiencing this, I think you just have to constantly look at yourself. What are the things you want to do and that excite you, that scare you, and you're going to have to continually reassess, because the answers to those questions are going to be one thing now, and they'll likely be different a year from now or multiple years from now, so you have to continually reassess. What is the music? Are you excited, inspired, perhaps terrified, or at least challenged by it? Or is it just like you're bored, you're not stimulated, you're wishing you weren't there? If that's the case, then my advice is those moments should be balanced out with a financial return. If you're finding yourself in those situations, hopefully there's a financial component that's making up for that. Otherwise, you're really in the negative space. You're not making money, you're wasting your time doing something that you don't want to do, and you're not, learning something. Whether you could be learning something or not is beside the point. If you're not open to it, excited by it, and feeling it, and therefore you're not learning something, then you're still on the negative side of the equation. So that balance is what I'm always looking for. My one possible strategy for this is, if you want to go into more opportunities, if there's opportunities coming your way, but you're reluctant to say yes because you don't want to, get yourself tied into something that then you'll have a hard time extricating yourself from, just set it up as a limited engagement, with this band or whatever. Say, hey, listen, there's a lot of different things I'm involved in right now. I'd love to play with you guys. Perhaps, is there any music you can send me in advance? I don't have a lot of extra time for rehearsal. They may very well move on to somebody else who can be with them for rehearsals. There you go. But if they still want you, you say, look, this is what I'm able to give, or this is what I have available. Can we work with that? And let's try it out for a few, 3 rehearsals and a gig or something, and reassess. See how you feel about it, see how they feel about it, and then decide to keep moving forward or not. That's about the most logical way I can think about coming at those things now, other than if it's a pure like, hey, here's the gig, here's the time commitment, here's the money, do you want to do it, yes or no? That's a little more cut and dried. So I don't know. I don't think I have anything better on the subject than this right now. I hope that's helpful in some way, Dan. I see. I can see right here on the map, right?
Yeah.
So there's the X that we're going to.
Yeah.
And this is the jungle.
Mm-hmm. And then I just showed you our houses.
Okay.
All the way through here.
Oh my goodness.
That's a long drive, right?
That is a long drive, you're right. Oh my gosh, it's so good.
Now let's put it away before it melts.
This is some of the best ice cream I've had.
It's still not melting.
Oh, there it is.
Now, I need to give this to Nora.
Okay.
Like this. Nora,